Hello and welcome to another Traction Creative Discussions. I'm Woody, your host. Today we are really excited to be talking to the MOK team. You're going to be seeing a completely new product launch, just teased to you there. We're excited to talk about that, and also the fact that the MOK team are graduating out of our Traction Presents program and are flying on their own to launch this new product all through their website. So let me bring the guys in, Rob and Taiho from Media Overkill. Greetings.
Hi.
How are you, gents?
Really good.
Excellent. And so just for the viewers, obviously Taiho's in LA, Rob's in Berlin. I'm up here in Seattle. You know, the joys of our live streaming world these days. You can get them from all over the world. So anyway, welcome, gents. Super exciting day today. Of course, you guys are launching something very cool. And of course, you know, as we saw in the intro, we have a very, very special guest joining us later in the show to talk about some interesting collaboration you guys are doing. So with that, let's start at the beginning, right? I mean, we all know each other from being in the industry for a long time. I mean, I'm scared about how old I'm getting, but, you know, on the plus side of that is we've all got to meet each other in different positions in different companies. And here we are down the line, and you guys have created Media Overkill. You know, I was in a similar position starting Traction, and you guys and our collaboration on Traction were the first sort of concept that created what became the Traction Presents program, right? And I'm sure anyone that's been watching this sort of stream, last few episodes, we've been launching lots of really cool new indie developers through the Traction Presents program. But you guys were like our first, you know, it was our collaboration that really sort of seeded that whole concept. So, you know, it's turning out to be great. And as I said at the start, I'm thrilled that, you know, you guys are now on what we're calling your graduation moment, right? You know, the whole premise of the program was to help each other grow. And now you've grown enough that, you know, you can go out and launch the stuff. You have created a vibrant user base, you know, and now you can go launch it. So I'm utterly thrilled about that, of course.
Thank you so much, Woody.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know if we've completely graduated. We might come home, you know, a couple times
to do laundry.
Yeah, to do some laundry from time to time.
Absolutely.
This Traction Presents program has been, you know, really great for us. You know, when we were first starting out, we didn't have any infrastructure, and we couldn't have done this without your help. You know, I'm thankful that we met, you know, way back in our Avid days, and that we've kept in touch, and that we're able to, you know, continue to work on these really great things. So, thank you.
Yeah, maybe we should just do a quick summary. You guys, I mean, you know, I see you guys as being kind of the current crop of what I call the synth scientists. I mean, the stuff you guys are doing, the work you do to push the boundaries of what synthesis can do. I mean, obviously we have all our weekly team meetings. It blows my mind every week. But, you know, I mean, for those listening, just give a quick sort of summary. I mean, you guys have been working on synths for your entire careers, right? And have worked on some of, you know, the real highlights of synthesis that's come out. So real quick, just give us a quick summary. I know it's on the website, but it's always good to hear it from you.
Yeah, so we met at Elisa's way back in the day. And Rob was a sound designer already, and I was a temp, and we started on the original Quadrasynth, and I was, working on sounds, and then that Quadrasynth turned into, that same engine turned into a whole like giant product line with the QS series, and then we worked on the Andromeda there together, and our paths kind of converge.
Yeah.
Rob went to Line 6 and worked on a ton of great stuff over there, and I went over to M Audio. And let's see, am I leaving anything out, Rob?
Well, I mean, it's been a lot of years. I mean, that was '93. The entire Releases sound design team at that time was Taiho, myself, and Eric Norlander, our good friend. There were just the three of us, and we're still, great friends today. And then Taiho and I have been talking about making synths probably since we were, since that time. Like, yeah, someday when we make our own synth, And even when Taiho went to M Audio and I was at Line 6, we were still like, yeah, let's someday do that. And
we had to work.
We lived near each other in Los Angeles for some time, so we'd get together on weekends and play music and talk about synthesizers. So, I mean, it's really fun now that we're actually making synths for real, together.
It is, and it's like it's a great relief because during this time period, we're working at different companies, so you can talk to a certain extent about synths, but you can't talk fully freely, which was weird for me after we'd spent so much time at Elise's, just like we're turning around in our chairs and just chatting about synths and new concepts, to all of a sudden have this time period where you're restricted by non-disclosure agreements. Like, you can't talk about synths. You can talk about, other people's synths and what you like about them and stuff, and maybe play some music and stuff, but you can't actually talk about things. So when we both left our respective companies at about the same time, we were like, oh my gosh, we can actually talk about this stuff again. And it kind of rekindled this, amazing sort of, chemistry that we've had from, the very beginning. And that's kind of how MOK started.
I know I'm using the analogy more and more these days of like, music production is almost similar in so many ways to, developing instruments and products for musicians. The human interactions are very similar. It's like two musicians finding each other after a period and coming up with some real magic, and I know I keep saying, the Traction Presents is almost like a record label, and you guys are our indie artists coming through, and these sort of interactions produce this real magic. It's the sparks that push stuff forward, push the industry forward, push in new directions, which I find particularly exciting. Which brings us on nicely to Waverazor, which, obviously has been out for a while. And, I know everyone that knows it and loves it is aware of kind of how innovative it is. But if there's anyone out there who doesn't, I mean, coming up with, essentially a new oscillator type in the synthesizer landscape, it's extremely rare. And you guys did that with the Waverazor oscillator, and you were rewarded for that work with a patent for it as well. And that, as I say, is extremely rare, right? There's lots of ways that existing synthesizer technology can be repackaged in really innovative ways, and coming up with new instruments. But to really sort of come up with a brand new oscillator type, that's the bit that's like, wow, okay, you guys are doing some real science here and thinking about it. So give us a quick run through on that. I know we don't have a huge amount of time. It's been around for a while, but yeah, give us a quick Waverazor update.
So Waverazor is coming up on its 5th year. And we've updated it a number of times over the years, and we haven't charged for any of the updates except for one, which was we launched at half price and we didn't have a sound editor for it. And anybody that put their trust in us and bought the synth, got the update for free. But at that point, we had to raise our price to what it is today. But anybody who's bought the synth since then, we've done a ton of updates, and we haven't charged for anything. Our last update, 2.5, added a ton of new modules, I call them. They're like our DSP blocks that you can mix and match inside of Waverazor and create. I don't know. It's almost like a modular in there that you can you create your own patches with. And so we added a reverb, a new delay, a comb low pass filter, an all pass filter, which is what you can use to make phasers or even your own reverbs. We have a tap line physical modeling filter that you can do Carplus strong with, a new step generator sequencer module, a random generator module for modulating things, and then we added one-shot LFO modes and envelope looping modes, and sample and hold to all of the modulators, like every one of them. So it's a ton of stuff that was all free for Waverazor users, and we will continue to update this going into the future.
Fantastic.
But yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit more today about like how the wave slicing oscillators work, and what the sort of main features of that are. And I wanted to kind of hand it over to Rob a little bit for how he was inspired to come up with the initial concept, because he's really the brains of the operation. So I'm going to hand it over to him. And what are you looking for your brains over there?
Yeah, I left them away somewhere. Yeah, sure. I mean, all the stuff that you said, and I'm glad you mentioned the sample and holds that were added, to the to all of the modules, the LFOs, envelopes, and other various generators modules in the engine. Someone on the chat mentioned my volume was low. Is it okay now? You guys can hear me all right?
I can hear.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say Taiho, you're still quite loud, by the way, just as a side note.
Well, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I'm just quiet in comparison. But as Taiho mentioned, when we first began, we were both, I was leaving line 6, he was leaving audio, and we said, okay, let's, we're not getting any younger, as we've, pointed out before. Let's just do this. So we thought the best place to begin would be, I said, I'll build a synth engine and we'll just see, what our first product's going to be. And in the course of doing the oscillators, I was just writing some code and doing, some of these tables for shapes. And then I just said, well, look at all those shapes. They kind of line up. Let me wonder what happens if, I do this and this and that. And wow, that's interesting. So then I played with it a little more, and I, spent maybe a week on it. And then I sent it to Taiho and I said, what do you think of this? It's kind of weird. He's like, dude, I've never heard that before. I was okay, so we're onto something. And then, I mean, all the, 99% of the work is in the last 1% of the, implementation, isn't it? So we spent another year probably just on the oscillators, then another year on getting all the things you need to have just to ship a product, the interface, and you got to have filters and modulation matrices and things like that. And it took us 3 years, 2.5?
It took
3.5. And it was 2017, and then this, kind of brings us back to, how thankful we are, Woody, of the Traction Presents thing, because you took us to NAMM, and we got to tell people about it there, and then shortly after that, Super Booth, and all of these avenues for us to tell people about Waverazor has been. I mean, we couldn't have done it without you, really.
But it's worked great for us too. I mean, obviously the symbiotic relationship as we were growing You know, I mean, to have cool new products coming out is benefited the whole of us, which is why the program came to be. It's a win-win. So, you know, if we get associated with really innovative new stuff, that of course helps us, and we love it. I mean, this is the stuff that, you know, when you've worked in the industry for as long as we have, you know, you want to get excited about what you're doing, and innovation is what drives that. At least for us, I know, you know, coming out with new, interesting stuff. So I know, and Waverazor is such a deep dive of an instrument, and obviously the guys listening are probably well aware of Wolfram on our internal sort of synth team, you know, and instruments like FM and BioTek that, you know, Taiho was heavily involved with. And I call those instruments kind of the deep dive instruments. And, you know, I mean, you could spend a long time just truly mastering these instruments. I mean, so much goes into it. It's, you know, like you said, it was 3 years of development time with someone that knows exactly what they're doing. And, you know, the capabilities are pretty extreme. And it's just an awesome instrument.
Yeah, thank you. We didn't actually really know what we were doing with this one because it was all new. It was, you know, a patented oscillator type. We didn't know what wave slicing was going to do to sounds, and we were naming new parameters that, you know, we're like, what do we call this? It's like, you know, chopping up the waves. You know, what is that?
Yep.
So, you know, we're like, okay, that's the razor, and this is going to be step values and stuff like that. It's pretty crazy. But you know, now it's really well sorted out, and we understand what's happening with it. And I should speak a little bit about that. In that, there are 3 big concepts with wave slicing, and one is that the waves that you slice together, and you can slice up to 16 of them in Waverazor. The harmonic content of each of those waveforms gets kind of mixed. Since these wave slices are going by so fast at audio rate, they kind of blend together. And I like to think of it like it's like you're watching a movie with a frame rate, and those frame rates create motion. Mm-hmm. This wave slicing sort of creates a mix of timbres, but it also creates discontinuities within the wave, like where they get chopped. There might be a sharp jump, and these sharp jumps are they contain harmonics that are like square waves. So it starts generating all this additional harmonic content that way. But then there are a couple of other properties of wave slicing, and one of them is mutant AM. That's what we're calling it. It's sort of like amplitude modulation, but it's dependent on the harmonic content in every slice. So you could end up with this sort of grid or tapestry of harmonics that are, you know, popping on and off. And so there's this weird kind of amplitude modulation sound from that. Tends to be mostly sort of inharmonic, but it can also be harmonic depending on your frequency relationships. It's a little bit like FM in that way. And then finally, we do this thing called multi-sync, which is a hard sync sound that can happen at multiple points within a wave cycle, or it can happen at, you know, multiple points outside of a single cycle. And it's a really interesting, thicker sync sound that isn't really possible otherwise. So yeah, those are the, you know, really exciting,
mind-melting stuff. I mean,
Taiho, you should open the editor when you're just to show the wave view, because you can see those slices.
Show that quickly, and then I'm going to move us along because time is passing. As I just mentioned, a good segue is obviously we just talked about how Waverazor pioneered all the stuff, and it's a super deep dive instrument. And you can I mean, there's just so much in there. But fanfare, the new announcement today is you guys have taken some of this technology and done something, really appealing, I think, to take this technology to a much wider audience, be able to play with it, and inspired by, obviously someone that inspired you guys at the very start of your synth career. So let's show us a bit in there, but let's segue. I want you guys to get to your announcement so we can see something new and listen to it for the next sort of 8 or 9 minutes.
All right. I'll just play a little bit of this one. Anyway, fun stuff.
I will say, actually, just before we move on to the next bit, I noticed a few little glitches in there and whatnot. Guys, I know it's obvious, but the synth is available, Waverazor is available on the Traction website with a 90-day free trial. So, if you're at all inspired by the kind of sounds and stuff we're talking about, go get the real synth, load it onto your computer and listen to it, in your own rooms. Don't take the web version being streamed as the best sound of this synth, because of course it's not. Yeah. So yeah, please do go grab that.
Am I glitching over here?
Little bit.
All right. Sorry, guys. How's my mic volume too?
Good.
Okay, good.
We need a drum roll for the the new stuff.
I was wondering, is it possible to play that little video again? If people play?
I know Yvette will be listening backstage.
So cool. I'm blown away by that video. We just got that pretty much this morning. And shout out to Daniel who put that together. Really,
Daniel is great.
He does all our Traction videos as well, for anyone that wants to know. But yeah, brilliant guy.
So let me switch over to that synth.
Yeah, while you're doing that, Rob, perhaps you can talk about a bit about the inspiration on this and some of the flow. I mean, back to you guys being inspired back when you were kids to how we've got to here.
Certainly. So yeah, you're looking at the Mini-Ray's UI. So unlike Waverazor that has, an editor and all kinds of modules and things that you can do everything, but you got to dive for it. One of the original and still one of the best signal flows in front panel UIs is the Mini Moog. And we've all been inspired by that. Anyone who's, a synth person has been inspired by that product in one way or another. It doesn't matter which angle which coast or persuasion you come from in synthesizers, that one has been influential, certainly. So this is Taiho's UI. This is his design. He wanted to do something that's had the simplistic signal flow where you could understand that oscillators move to filters and they have modulators and things like that. This is the MOK take on that sort of thing, and bringing our a simplified version of our our engine to a single panel where you can just kind of get at everything straight away. And I've told Taiho this. In the beginning, I was a bit skeptical, honestly, about this. But I said, okay, I have faith in you. I've known you for 100 years. Let's just try this out. And I must say, as it's been coming together, I've been pleasantly isn't the right word, incredibly surprised and happy. Because as I'm making sounds myself, it's just super fast. Like all the stuff where I'm like routing a modulator or something like this in Waverazor, or doing something real tweaky in Mini Rays, it's just boom, 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 boom. Oh, I've got my sound, got my modulator. I've got all this stuff happens really fast. And there's a reason that Mini Moog, UI and panel design has really stood the test of time, because it works. It really works. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely streamlines things. If you'll notice, like in the oscillators, there's basically two wave slices that get sliced together. In Waverazor, you have 16, which affords you, different opportunities, of course, but it is, it's more complex. Like Waverazor is so, it's so huge that you can literally prototype other synths like this within Waverazor, which we kind of did. But the charm of Mini Rays is that it has a streamlined workflow, and that it's really inspired by the classic synth designs, like the Mini Moog and designs in the 70s.
An interesting point on that, I think we mentioned it in our previous discussions, Taiho, is this workflow didn't exist back then, right? I mean, that's kind of the magical thing about this workflow that I think really sort of requires us to point at it and say, when Bob came up with this, it was complete innovation, and like you say, it stood the test of time. Today, it still makes complete sense in terms of quickly making desirable, interesting sounds with, whatever oscillators you might be using, but just the workflow of this just makes sense. And, that I think is such an achievement.
Wow, thank you. Yeah. But I'm glad that you point out like the achievement that people like Bob Moog made back in the day, where there was not that much, synthesizers did not exist in this sort of keyboard form yet. He did a lot of work with Herb Deutsch to, figure out what are the parts of a synthesizer. And Bill Hemsath did the sort of putting those parts into the Mini Moog back at the original Moog company. So yeah, we're definitely standing on the shoulders of giants in doing these sorts of things. But we also, continue our MOK philosophy of, wanting to add to the conversation. Like, we don't want to just recreate what's already been done. We want to try and, move synthesis forward step by step every time we do something.
Yeah, we don't have the first name Uli at all. Anyway.
I'm not going to get into that.
I'll leave it at that. We're not getting into politics, industry politics here, but yeah, there are those that like to recreate what others, dreamt up and spent hours and time toiling over, and then there are real scientists like you guys who, like as you so eloquently put it, Taiho, you like to add to the conversation. I really like that. Looking at the time, I think it's a great moment to bring in our very esteemed and special guest. And Taiho, I'll let you do introductions because I know you guys have known each other for a while. And yeah, please take it away.
Oh, awesome. All right. So we're bringing Michelle Moog-Koussa into the conversation. Hi,
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, everybody.
She's the executive director of the Bob Moog Foundation, and a very patient person waiting through all of our blabbering. So I wanted to announce the reason why Michelle is here, and we are doing a special mini ray sound bank that will benefit the Bob Moog Foundation. We have some really amazing artists and sound designers that are involved, and all the proceeds from the sales of this Bob Moog Foundation 15th anniversary sound bank will be going to the foundation and helping with all the important work they do. And Michelle, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about what the Bob Moog Foundation's mission is, and hopefully let the viewers know, like, why it's important and why they should support the foundation's work.
Sure. Well, first, I just want to say thanks for having me here. It's a real honor to be included in this conversation of such innovative work. The innovative work of synthesizer pioneer Bob Moog is really where all of the work of the Bob Moog Foundation is based, and so it won't surprise anybody that our mission is to inspire people through the intersection of science, music, technology, and innovation, which is essentially a mirror reflection of Bob's legacy itself. And the reason that we felt that mission was so important is because when he passed away, we had thousands of people from all over the world contact us and tell us how deeply he had inspired their lives, how he had inspired them to become musicians or engineers, how he had given them their creative voice, how he had changed or transformed their life. And we felt that that was a mission that really deserved to be carried forward to continue to inspire people and do good in the world. So that's the mission, reflects that. And we carry out that mission through three main projects. I'll just run through them quickly. And if anyone wants more detail, we can talk about that. But the way that we kind of execute that mission is through our hallmark educational program, Dr. Bob's Sound School, which is a 10-week experiential curriculum that teaches second graders about the science of sound through music and technology. We also have a huge archive of material that we protect and preserve and share in the Bob Moog Foundation archives, which includes over 10,000 pieces of material, including photos, schematics, desktop notebooks, synthesizers and prototypes, memorabilia, and a whole lot more. And those two projects, the educational project and the archive preservation project, basically converge into our new Moogseum, which we opened in May of 2019 in downtown Asheville.
Congratulations.
And, yeah, so that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a highly experiential space with very technology-driven exhibits. And we're proud to say that we've had more than 10,000 people come through from all over the world since we opened, and that includes 5 months of being closed during COVID. So lots of people, both children and adults, and people from all walks of life and all knowledge levels, because we tried to make it very accessible. It's not just for music fans or synthesists or Moog fans. It's really for anybody who's open to being inspired by this story of American invention.
Well, awesome. I know, Taiho. I think your first instrument was potentially one of Bob's, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, like, I wasn't aware of it at the time. I was basically, a child. I was 9, and my dad bought me a Moog Prodigy, and I just played with it. I just fell in love with making sounds on it. Just taught me about what an LFO did, taught me what an envelope did, what are oscillators, what are filters, and I made sounds like motorcycles revving or like spaceships floating away, things like that. Just things that came purely from my kid's imagination, and had a lot of fun with it. And then actually, for a while there, I went and did some other things. I was, a kid, but then as like a teenager, I got back into making music and rediscovered, the coolness of not just the Prodigy, but all the other synthesizers that then were inspired, from them, like the whole like Japanese synthesizer, um, the big, was it this sort of big 3 or big 2 over there, like Roland and Korg and
Yamaha.
yeah, yeah.
Those guys.
Those guys, those little companies over there. So that got me into making music and making my own sounds and sequencing, and that eventually led me into studying sound design at school, and then studying like sound design for theater as well. And I got just a chance meeting with an engineer from Alesis, and then we ended up talking about sounds and things in I don't know, this dance club somewhere, and that ended up being like my interview for being hired at Alesis. And it never would have happened if I hadn't been initially inspired by this very first instrument and learning about sound design from that as a kid. So like I owe my life to Bob Moog in a way. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without him. So I think it's so important that his legacy is preserved, and that it continues to inspire the new generations of synth makers and kids coming up. I think it's great. I was curious about, speaking about the next generations. I think I saw some YouTube videos about the Sound School, or some classes from the Sound School. Is there an online component to that these days?
There's not yet. It's something that we'd really like to offer. We just need the proper resources to execute that. But I think what you're referring to is called At Home with Dr. Bob Sound School. So it's kind of an extension of what we do in Dr. Bob Sound School, that was created especially for times when we knew that kids were home and not able to attend school and home with their parents. And we wanted to give them the opportunity to do some kind of interactive science of sound experiments. So what you see in At Home with Dr. Bob Sound School is actually different kind of activities than what we would do in Dr. Bob Sound School. Some of it is because when you're at home, you have other materials than you do at school. But it is not an exact reflection, but it's kind of trying to bring what we're doing to a wider audience. So it's meant for elementary school students to do with their parents.
That's cool. And they can find this through your website or the YouTube channel?
Yeah, the YouTube channel. If they just search Moog Foundation and then look for At Home with Dr. Bob Sound School, it's a series of 4 different videos.
Excellent. Yeah, my kid is about the right age for that, so I'm particularly interested.
Yeah. Good. I mean, you just have to remember that we're teaching kids about kind of the basic principles of sound. So we're not going to get into we're not going to get into slicing waveforms or anything.
Well, not yet. There's always an advanced course, this comes up.
Dear me. I know these guys just blow my mind every time we have our team meetings and development meetings and we get into it. It's, yeah. my exposure to synthesizers is via using them, not building or designing them. It's mind blowing.
So, another thing that I was interested in is, starting our little company MOK. It's been such a long journey, and making your own business is difficult. I wanted to hear more about how you started the Bob Moog Foundation and its journey through the years, and how you feel about the progress of it, and basically like the story of your journey with it.
Well, the journey actually started with the feedback that we got from so many people when my father passed away, which I alluded to before. Prior to that, I like to say that my family knew my dad, and they knew his basic, the basic premises of his accomplishments. But he was a very humble man, and he really wanted a place where he could just be Dad or Bob at home. So he didn't talk about his work very much. And as a result, we didn't understand the impact of it until we got all the feedback after he passed away. And I like to say that, it is those people who wrote thousands of testimonials, much like yours, Taiho, that we were really introduced to the Bob Moog that the world knew, but we did not at that time. And so the Bob Moog Foundation was, created out of this wellspring of inspiration. And, at the time, I had two small children, 5 and 10 years old. I owned a small business in downtown Asheville. I was a political science major, several years prior. But when we decided we wanted to create the foundation, we worked on it together, and then someone had to step forward and lead it. And I finally wound up being that person. And so the learning curve was somewhat like that. Very steep. And the first year I was a volunteer working out of my basement. I put about 500 hours of work into just getting it off the ground. And then a year after my dad passed away, on August 21st of 2006, we formally launched the foundation with a website and a fundraising campaign. And I worked on my own for about another 4 years. We didn't have any staff, but we had a lot of wonderful volunteers and donors who supported the vision of carrying Bob's legacy forward to inspire future generations. And in that time, the projects that we originally conceived of, we realized were not the greatest fit for what we were doing, and morphed more into what I mentioned before. And then eventually, as we began to build our work and get more support, we were able to grow our programs, and it, eventually kind of snowballed. I mean, there were times where we had setbacks. We actually thought we were going to build a multi-million-dollar Moogseum in 2008, and we got a large lead grant. But because of the economic downturn in 2008, we weren't able to actually achieve the conditions of that grant, nor embrace that iteration of the Moogseum. So we decided to kind of put it on the back burner, focus on Dr. Bob's Sound School and the archives, and really do a great job with those two programs, so that when we were ready to build a Moogseum, those programs would be robust and ready to kind of incorporate into what we were providing at the Moogseum. So there have been some ups and downs, just like my father's legacy is full of ups and downs. I like to say his career can be represented in a sine wave, lots of peaks and valleys. And our path over the past 15 years has been no different. But if there's one thing that I personally learned from Bob Moog, I wish that I learned a lot more about synthesis, but he never talked about it, so I didn't. But the one thing I did learn from watching him my entire childhood, and from now reading much more about his professional career, is his really extraordinary and astounding perseverance. There were times when he was eyeball deep in debt, just had his fourth child, and it would have been so easy for him to give up at that point. That was in 1970. But he didn't. There were other times that he had to work for other people who he didn't see eye to eye with, who really kind of diminished his capabilities. There was another time he almost went out of business, and, he just kept going. And there have been times when I have wondered if this was the right thing to be doing, because it was hard. Anything worth doing is going to be a little on the difficult side. And actually, every single one of my family members encouraged me to kind of give up and move on. And I knew in my gut that this foundation had way too much potential to give up on. And so I refused to give up. And someone said to me, actually, I think you're trying to hit a home run with a miniature bat. I think referring to the fact that there's a lot of work to do with Bob Moog Foundation, and our resources at the beginning, and even to some extent now, are kind of slim. And I thought about that for a little while, and I thought, that person had it completely wrong. My bat is so big, I just need a lot of people to help me lift it. Yeah. So
I can relate so much to that.
Yeah, I have just stuck with it and continue to work, and then of course work with a wonderful staff, board of directors, volunteers, as the foundation has grown and grown, to pursue our mission, pursue the projects, and be worthy of people's support. And that has finally happened. And sometimes, I do get stuck in, well, what have we done over the past 15 years, and are we doing enough, and are we doing it fast enough? But then when I sit there and name off everything that we've done with Dr. Bob's Sound School, and the archives, and the Moogseum, I actually think, well, you know what? That's actually quite a lot for a little grassroots organization started in someone's basement. So we're all immensely proud of the work that the Bob Moog Foundation has been able to do, and we're really looking forward to the next 15 years, where I think we will see exponential growth.
I really hope so. And that's why it's so important to support the foundation, hopefully, through our sound bank, but also they run these amazing raffles all the time for these, original vintage instruments that have something special about them. I think, is there a raffle going on right now?
Yeah, it's in the thingy.
Ticket tape.
Okay. Yeah, always want to do that. This thing.
I guess I'll learn how to read.
Yeah, so we are permitted by the North Carolina Gaming Board to run 2 raffles a year, and this raffle is particularly special because we have a vintage Mini Moog signed by Bob Moog, which is the first time we've ever been able to offer anything like that. And so, these raffles are incredibly important to the work of the Bob Moog Foundation. And people can go to the link, read a lot more about it. The raffle does end on Monday, and we are more than 75% sold out. We're hoping we are going to completely sell out this raffle, which would be absolutely wonderful. So I would just encourage people, if you're interested in a newly restored, gorgeous vintage Mini Moog with Bob Moog's signature on it, please get your tickets now.
Are we allowed to enter that, or is there some restrictions?
No, there are some restrictions on who can enter, but it's not anyone from Traction.
Yes.
Yay! Okay, we're in.
Fantastic. It's a truly inspiring story, and like I said, Michelle, I mean, as a business founder and starter, everything you said, I'm like, yep. But I'm sure Taiho and Rob are the same. I often refer to it as kind of an extreme sport. It's dodging all of the things that you don't plan for, like financial crises and global pandemics, and there's all sorts of things that just come out of left wing and try and stop you from generally building a nice business. So And I'm also thoroughly inspired by, our common thread of wanting to inspire, next generation and innovation and, and keeping it alive, right? I mean, that genuinely is what keeps us excited about doing what we do and facing the extreme sport aspects of running a small business in the space,
Absolutely. And, I actually gave a TED talk on the power of inspiration. And I think my original source for that was just seeing how much my father revered Leon Theremin and how much his own work sprung out of Theremin's work. And how he would say that Leon Theremin was his virtual mentor, and that he had one opportunity to work on a theremin that Leon Theremin made himself. And he, in the Theremin biography by Albert Glinsky, he actually says, that moment when he was able to fix that theremin for Clara Rockmore, who was a theremin virtuosa, he said that moment when I felt a deep spiritual connection to Leon Theremin, and I consider it to be the highlight of my professional career. Now that was like when he was 50 years old. He had invented the synthesizer. He had gotten, been awarded a Grammy. He had worked on many other projects. Yet that moment when he sensed this, intense connection with his virtual mentor, he considered to be the highlight of his professional career. So inspiration is a really powerful and important source, I think, for the forward motion of our society. I certainly feel incredibly honored and privileged to be, being stewarding this source of information and carrying it forward to hopefully inspire other people the way Leon Theremin inspired Bob Moog.
Fantastic. Oh gosh, well, I know we could chat and chat and chat for hours. I know we're coming up to only about 6 or 7 minutes left, and I don't think we've even heard mini rays yet. So, I mean, maybe we should dare the internet streaming and just even hear a little bit of it, Taiho. I know there's people probably out there desperate to just hear some of your favorite patches on it, and then we can take some questions. While you're doing that, I'll have a quick scan through and see what questions have come in. And again, any
disclaimer for glitching. Yeah.
Any glitching and pops, just, I mean, trying to stream this over the internet is quite tricky, but yeah, go. Now they go to the MOK website to get this.
Are we glitching?
That didn't sound too bad, but it's quieter, I think.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Naughty.
Exactly.
Quickly, I know one of the questions came in about pricing on mini rays, guys, and let's just touch quickly on where guys can. Obviously, the MOK website can go get it. When's it going live? When can demos be downloaded and all of that good stuff?
We're hoping to launch mini rays in October. It's too early to announce details about mini rays yet. This is really meant to be kind of a teaser, so we're not going to say too much about it at this point. We're still in development on it, but we're getting very close. We were super excited to share it with you guys. I don't know. Ask some questions, and if we can answer, we'll answer.
There was one question on the Oh yeah, that was it. Where to get info and the price. So you just answered
Yeah.
that. There is a teaser page on our website now that just,
Yeah.
but that's about the extent of it, I think, for the moment, right?
Pretty much, but yeah, please drop by that page, and if you haven't already signed up for our mailing list, you can sign up there, and we'll keep you informed. As soon as we can release information, we'll send it out.
I see lots of comments about how inspiring the story was, Michelle. I'm looking if there are any particular questions directly for you. I think everyone's just saying what an amazing story here. There is a comment about hardware. Obviously, you guys obviously are developing the modules as well. So
right behind
if you're unaware that the MOK guys make modules as well, that the Waverazor is available as a module, hardware module. And anything new in the pipeline there that you can talk about quite yet, or?
We can't talk about it, but there are going to be new things, hopefully, in the next year. That's all I can say.
No, I wasn't expecting you to be able to say much more. But can Mini Rays play Waverazor patches? That's a good question.
No. Yeah, it's, as we mentioned before, the Waverazor engine and the architecture is wide open. It's a super deep thing where everything, routing is possible, whereas Mini Rays is kind of taking, the analogy of the Moog modular, which is, in Michelle's background there, and then, to the Mini Moog. It's, picking the parts that, fit on a single panel that would make, kind of a focused editing experience. So no, there's more stuff in Waverazor under the hood than is in Mini Rays. So no, they're not patch compatible.
That will be the fantastic patch library that we've already mentioned.
Exactly.
That more proceeds will go to the foundation. So, and I'm sure Taiho and the team will have come up with a great factory patch library purely for Mini Rays too. So I'm sure it will not be this. You will not be needing more sounds to play with, and hopefully, I think a synth like that, it's all about making your own stuff, right? I mean, it's a simplistic approach. It's dive in. I'm often tempted on our simpler ones just to not put a preset in there. It's like just use it, make your own. Don't be a preset player on these things. Go make your own. Anyway, okay. Any more questions? I don't think we've touched on. If not, I know we're coming up to the last minute. So any last comments, guys? I mean, thank you so much for joining us, Michelle. And obviously, Rob, Taiho, congratulations on all the hard work. I know it's years in the making and will be for years to come. So, thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Woody, for having us. It's
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for having us in Traction Presents for all these years and being your first students, if you will. We're graduating.
Partners.
Yeah,
Partners
it's
in crime.
like I said, it's been wonderful, and we couldn't have done this without you.
Through the roller coaster ride of building our own businesses. So.
And
we should do a self-help. We should do a self-help group.
Yeah, well, Michelle has the experience with the TED Talks and the inspiration. And Michelle, thank you for being here. And after all these years of talking about different things and synthesizers and the Bob Moog Foundation, it's really exciting that we have a reason to collaborate now. I'm really excited about that.
We are excited as well and grateful. So thank you both for the support. We really appreciate it.
The feeling is mutual. So.
Excellent. And with that, we are out of time. So hopefully we'll see you at the next Traction Creative Discussions coming up in the near future. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.